What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at St. Vitus. This is our 11th time here in about 2 weeks. And what an awesome opportunity here because we got the entirety of Exmortus. Thank you guys for being here, man.
Yeah, our pleasure.
How you doing?
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. So the Sound of Steel is what I would call an absolute thrasher piece. Let's talk about the recording if you guys want to pass the mic around. How was the recording for each and every one of you?
It was pretty awesome because finally I am a little more prepared for this recording than the other ones. Usually I do. I mean, I always do last minute shit, but this time I was a little more prepared, and yeah, this time I got Chase on guitar and Carlos Cruz on drums, but now we have another guy here, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. No. Very fortunately, because we need a permanent member, so we got Adrian Aguilera right here on drums, so yeah.
It's awesome. So by having new members, I'd imagine that allowed you all to bring in some newer elements that maybe you didn't have with Exmortus before, right?
Yeah, playing. Should I just talk to you? It's kind of weird if you want. Dude, I should grab him. I'm just lazy. Drinking and shit. Yeah, every time is different because everyone plays shit differently. You know, I'm sure. You know, when I learn something new, I'm gonna play it with my own flair. So Carlos and Chase played their parts, you know, with their own flair and shit. Of course, I'm not gonna play his solos. I'm not gonna write solos for him. He just played his solos for his solo sections. So yeah, there's a difference with them playing now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, at this point for you, Conan, being because you know you guys have about a couple of albums out now. For you, at this point, has every record been a new experience for you, or does it feel like going through the motions a little bit?
Well, the thing is, the last, Sound of Steel is the third album with Zach Oren producing it, engineering and producing it. So I mean, there wasn't really anything new about it, I guess, aside from like members. But it was pretty much like just the same. It was smooth sailing. It was the same, you know, approach, same same shit, same environment. So it wasn't very different, at least visually and mentally and, you know, physically, because it's the same fucking studio. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Now, in terms of thrash music in general, I think it's almost like one of those styles where everything counts. Everybody loves the heavy, fast riffing, the vocals, the drums. Is there anything that comes first in the songwriting process?
It's either or, because a lot of the times I'll come up with like just music first, just riffs, and I'll like okay, I can work some vocals around this. It sounds more like a verse riff or whatever, and I'll like construct it that way, and then I'll put lyrics afterwards. Or other times, the lyrics come first. Like I'll come with like phrases I think that are catchy, and then I'll put riffs on top of that. So this album has like a mixture of that. So honestly, there's no right way. It's just whatever you could put together and make it sound good. And I mean, in the end, I think they come out a little differently. You know, those two approaches. But I mean, there's no right way. I never stick to one way. It's just whatever, you know, I feel at the moment. Yeah. So.
Now, one question I have for you, because as we were discussing before the camera started rolling, that you also play for Warbringer.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I heard that only John's allowed to do interviews and nobody else. So now it's time to get back at him. Anything you want to say to him on camera right now? No, I'm kidding.
I love you, John.
But, you know, while I think that Warbringer and Exmortus are definitely thrash bands, I also feel like there are some distinct differences. For you, how different of like a creative mind frame is it, or the process behind everything?
Well, Exmortus is definitely more technical. I mean, it's more involved with the guitar. You know what I mean? It's about shredding. You know what I mean? But actually, also, you know, good composition as well. You know what I mean? Warbringer's, I wouldn't say it's more straightforward. I mean, the newest album we got is...
Woe to the Vanquish.
Hell yeah. That's pretty technical, you know what I mean? But yeah, Exmortus is fucking shredding, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know the lead sections and stuff for Warbringer are shredding also, but it's more riff-based, you know what I mean? So. And
a little more concept-based too, right? I know that Woe to the Vanquished had like a bit of like a more of some sort of concept behind it. I remember John like talked about it for like 30 minutes in our interview with him.
That's why he does the interviews.
Yeah, you're pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Now, before we started rolling, I wanted to talk to each and every one of you. This is going to be awesome because we're going to nerd out so hard right now. We're going to talk a little bit of gear. So starting this way.
I love Fender basses. Won't play any other kind. That's all I need. Fender. Dean Markley strings.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Markley
All of
strings,
us.
my favorite. All of us
use
use Dean Markley. They set us up real good. They treat us right, and that's why we love them.
How about your amp?
My amp, I use Gallion Kruger. I use PV. So they treat me right. They do a good job for me. So that's what I use.
I use Jackson guitars. I've been using a lot of Pro Series lately. Mike Tempesta of Jackson Guitars has been awesome enough to just give me guitars every year, and I just try them out and I tour with them. So they're great. They've been working out very well, and I just been using the RR models, the Randy Rhoads stuff, and they're fucking phenomenal. So yeah, I use that. Amp wise, I use Marshall. I have a JCM 2000, and I cannot go wrong with that shit. Great tone.
Well, it's funny because Dave Davidson from Revocation also uses a Jackson, and I was curious. I asked him because you're also a vocalist and a guitar player. Do you have a body adjust? I know that some people prefer to use a flying V model because it's lighter. Is there did you choose Jackson maybe to adjust to that?
Well, I mean, I didn't start out playing guitar to be a singer. I always wanted to just be a lead guitarist. My main inspiration and the reason to play, I guess, shred guitar would be Randy Rhoads. Hence, the shape. I always loved that shit. I always loved Ozzy. And so I just like the way it felt, just the shape. I mean, it's not a sit-down guitar exactly, but I'm not a sit-down player, really. I'm a performer, so I like to fucking just rock out. So naturally, that felt right for me. And even transitioning to vocals eventually, I think the year 2011 when I started singing for Exmortus, it still felt right. It's more of the way it feels. I mean, just in general, playing-wise. Not that, Stinkies and soloists feel great too, but I don't know. So I feel like the shape of that V forces me to have that rock stance or some shit,
Yeah, so you're a stand-up guy. Dude, have backhanded compliments and shit.
You.
Stinkies.
Oh, you use the Stinkies.
Stinkies.
too, yeah. Sorry.
I play PV amps.
Oh, really?
6505 plus. That's the head I'm using. ESP guitars. Usually I use the E2 M2 models. On this tour, I got a Aero series, the E2 that is badass, and keep the classic Exmortus Flying V
Look.
I really wanted that.
So going from Jackson and then ESP, both are loved in the world of metal.
Oh, yeah.
But do you think maybe somebody who's may not be a gearhead or may not know that, but maybe would hear a difference? Do you guys kind of have your gear adjusted to have one stand out over another, or?
I think it kind of happens, because we're both using different heads. You know, I think I'm used to playing with more gain than Conan. You know what I mean? So, I think they both complement each other. His cuts through really well, and mine's
just chunky.
maybe a little hotter, I guess.
Yeah.
But the guitar-wise, I don't know. I guess maybe it mostly depends on the pickups you're using. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny. I never really gave the pickups much attention. I always thought it was the gauge of the strings and the effects you use in the amp. But maybe that's just the new metalhead.
It might play a part. I mean, if you use thinner strings, they're a little brighter. Then thicker strings, they sound a little more dark. And I can't really tell a difference immediately. I really have to sit there and. We noticed when we recorded the album, the tone difference, of course, because it's right there. You can hear it with good speakers. But live setting, it's kind of hard to tell. The main difference we hear is simply just the amps. PV versus Marshall. You could tell one's a little more classic sounding, the other one's obviously more modern, compressed sounding. So.
Are you both using tubes or solid state? Or?
Tubes, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Awesome. And then finally, the most important person in the band, the drummer.
So I use Tama drums. It's a Star
Awesome.
Classic kit, but Binga shells, and then Zildjian cymbals, A Customs, and I use Vic Firth sticks. On this tour, though, we're me, the Absence, and Hatchet are kind of making a Frankenstein type of kit. We're kind of sharing gear a little bit, backlining, just to make it easier on each other. But that's what I use normally.
Now, what was always curious about is I asked a lot of drummers this many times. I've always noticed that drummers are kind of the biggest gearheads. And in the end, I always thought that I've noticed drummers are some of them are very particular. They either use wood tips or nylon tips. They're Tama, they're Pearl, Zildjian, Sabian, whatever.
Right.
And they fight over it like cats and dogs. But to me, I've always thought that, not to discredit drumming, but it all does come down to keeping beat and keeping rhythm and keeping everything in time.
I agree.
that is the main goal.
Yeah.
You know, your drummer
Yeah.
sucks, your band sucks.
Yeah, I love the I love the different companies and what they have to offer. To me, usually it kind of comes down to hardware. Actually, the innovation of hardware from each company to company is kind of what really sells me on the gear. But at the end of the day, I mean, drums is drums. It's all gonna you just hit them,
Yeah.
and as long as you play well, I think you can pretty much do well on any kit.
Think you could play an Exmortus song with like a set of bongos or there used to oh, where did it go? There was like that Hello Kitty drum kit down
I'm
here.
down to try.
Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah. I'm down to try it out. Yeah, I've kind of gotten accustomed to just playing on a lot of different kits, so I kind of feel like I'm able to make it work on whatever. You put a set of drums in front of me, I'll do it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And now one final question I wanted to ask is because I feel like with bands like you guys or Havoc or Warbringer, Power Trip, you name it, they really took the thrash genre and kind of reinforced it, like gave us a reason why we appreciate bands like the Big Four. And I've heard some younger fans even say that you guys were their gateway thrash band when you came here with Children of Bodom and Abath, which was an awesome show, by the way.
Fucking awesome too.
Yeah. But I was curious, do a lot of modern day thrash bands, would you say that they take inspiration from each other, like you guys and Power Trip, or are you guys like, not to say that you're one's ripping off another, but or do you look at like Slayer and Megadeth and Anthrax?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I always, out of the Big Four that we're all fond of, I personally like in a weird way favor Slayer for standing out so much from the rest,
definitely.
and I think that's why I really like them. Not because of their musical prowess, because they're not the best guitar soloists and everything like that. But I just
They
love.
said it, not me.
Yeah, no, but it's true. They don't really write the greatest solos, but they stand out so much that I kind of like hearing their shitty solos. It's true. It's fucking. But it sounds so wicked. It's so identifiable that I think with us we're like that in a way. We don't. There's no. I guess I don't like to call ourselves thrash because I think we're something else entirely, just Exmortus. So again, reinforcing that point is that we stand out in our own way with I guess neoclassical elements, and we throw hints of black metal here and there, and
Absolutely.
a little more death metal, I think, and of course seems to be majority thrash elements. But yeah, we have a certain sound that's a little different, and I purposely like to do that because I want to stand out. I like to be identified. Okay, we're Exmortus. We don't sound like this band. We don't sound like this. Blah blah. So it's kind of cool that people are actually digging that, and we are their gateway to the rest of the thrash community, which is cool.
But it's cool because of your style. I mean, like I remember seeing you guys open for Abath and Children of Bodom, and they don't sound really thrashy at all.
Right.
And you still won the crowd over at that
thank you.
show, which was awesome.
Thank you. And I think we fit with that. I think that's a cool thing too because I loved both bands growing up, and both those bands pretty much shaped I'm pretty sure I could speak for the rest of the guys, our vision to kind of play the way we do and write the way we do. So, classical elements like Children of Bodom and the whole black metal, like extreme metal from Abath and Immortal and stuff like that. So it was really cool to do that tour because we fit with both crowds, and I think that's a kind of a cool thing. And maybe that's why people, I guess, felt that way about.
And because you bring in all these different elements, it's got to make it easier to bring in newer materials when writing new music, right?
And also fitting with a bunch of different tours, like touring with the Modern Marth, that was something else too, and I think we fit well with them as well. I think we are pretty much, what's the word? We could fit with a lot of different kinds of styles of music because of that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go, what can we be expecting from Exmortus for the rest of 2018 and going into 2019?
A bunch of touring. I just want to tour consistently for the new album. I love the way the album came out musically, and I love how we're playing them live. And we were going to try to play the whole album at some point. So
Excellent.
yeah, once people are more familiar with it, and hope they dig it. So
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. It was great to have all four of you guys
thank
here.
you, man. Thank you.
Everybody, we are here with Exmortus. Pick up the sound of steel. It is absolutely awesome. Catch them on their tour. You'll be seeing a lot of them in 2018 and 2019. We'll see you next time.